All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking some truly profound insights from Volume 36 of the Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra. I know, it's a mouthful, but we're going to explore the ancient philosopher Nagarjuna's metaphysical deconstruction of reality. And listen, this isn't just some dusty abstract theory. This is literally a practical framework that will completely shift how you perceive absolutely everything around you. So we actually begin with this exact question, which was posed by Sariputra to the Buddha. It hooks us instantly into the central mystery of the Bodhisattva's unique spiritual path. You see, in early Buddhist thought, the ultimate goal was usually to just reach nirvana, right? To leave this endless cycle of worldly suffering entirely behind. But Sariputra is asking something incredibly radical here. He's asking, how does a being achieve ultimate enlightenment, surpass literally everyone else, and yet consciously choose to remain right here in this messy, complicated world with the rest of us? Okay, before we get too deep into the abstract philosophy, we really need to define this one foundational concept, avanivartaniya. Basically, this is the external goal of the practitioner. It translates to the state of non-retrogression. Imagine it like this. You're climbing a mountain, and you reach this critical threshold where the ground behind you just completely vanishes. There's no way you can slide backward into ignorance or worldly attachment. You are totally locked onto the path to ultimate enlightenment. Yet, and here's the crazy paradox, you're still walking on everyday worldly soil. And honestly, I love this metaphor from Nagarjuna on how the Bodhisattva actually achieves this state. They basically use expedient means and deep compassion to delay entering complete nirvana. Think about this. It's like shooting an arrow high into the sky, and right before it can fall back down, you shoot a second arrow to hit the first one, keeping it airborne indefinitely. It's wild, right? The Bodhisattva uses the arrow of profound wisdom to break free from the world, but then immediately fires the arrow of compassionate action right after it. This stops some from fully disappearing into nirvana so they can stick around and help the rest of us. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the ultimate field of merit. Then, deconstructing the 5 aggregates. After that, we'll look at the true nature of emptiness. And finally, reality beyond time. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the ultimate field of merit, and why exactly the Bodhisattva decides to stay. So what is it that makes a Bodhisattva's presence so completely transformative? Well, it is truly fascinating to see how every single positive framework in the world ultimately traces back to the Bodhisattva's initial compassionate vow. The text argues that things like the 10 good deeds, the 5 precepts, and even the very existence of other enlightened beings, like Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, they all stem from the Bodhisattva's determination to uplift the world. Without this compassionate anchor, the source material warns us that we literally only experience suffering. No pathways to joy, no heavenly or human realms, nothing. The Bodhisattva is the ultimate field of merit simply because they are the seed for all goodness. But here's where Nagarjuna's analysis gets stunningly pragmatic. It says that even a flawed or, quote, corrupted leader who enforces worldly laws just to bring stability, they're actually creating a vital field of merit too. It really shows the practical, impartial reach of this philosophy. Think about it. A ruler might use force or really strict national laws, right? They definitely aren't acting out of pure, detached enlightenment, but because their actions create societal order and protect a huge number of people, they are essentially participating in the Bodhisattva's work. The text calls this a corrupted Bodhisattva. It's a real game changer because it proves this philosophy isn't just for perfect saints. It totally acknowledges the messy, everyday reality of maintaining order in a deeply flawed world. Moving right along to Section 2, deconstructing the 5 aggregates. It's time to break down the illusion of the self. Now, to understand how a bodhisattva can stay in the world without being completely corrupted by it, we have to deconstruct the very illusion of the self. Like, what exactly is the you that's listening to this explainer right now? Well, everything you experience can be broken down into 5 aggregates. This shows that what you consider to be you is actually just a combination of these dependent parts. You're made up of form, feeling, perception, formations, and consciousness. Nagarjuna basically argues that if you look closely into any of these 5 buckets, you're not going to find a permanent, unchanging self anywhere. I mean, your body changes, your feelings are totally fleeting, your perceptions shift, your mental habits evolve over time, and your consciousness, it's really just a continuous reaction to stimuli. At the end of the day, you're just a temporary gathering of these aggregates, nothing more. But if this self is just temporary parts, you might be wondering, why on earth do we suffer so deeply? Well, this text has a beautifully striking analogy to explain this. It shows us that mental afflictions are actually separate from the mind itself, which means your fundamental awareness can always be purified. Picture your mind as a perfectly clear, still pond. When worldly afflictions like greed or anger jump in, it's like a wild elephant just thrashing around in the water, making everything completely muddy. But here's the key: the mud is not the water. When you drop in compassion and wisdom, what the text calls the water-clearing pearl, the mud just settles, and boom, the pond is instantly clear again. Your consciousness is never permanently stained by your afflictions. Taking this concept out into our external reality, Nagarjuna proves that all physical reality only exists through dependent origination. We use the word nation, sure, but if you remove the land and the people, where exactly is the nation? It's really just a convenient label. We say palace, but if you strip away the beams, the pillars, and the tiles, the palace completely vanishes. Nagarjuna even zooms into the microscopic level. He says if you take a tiny speck of dust and just keep dividing it infinitely, eventually you hit empty space. It's wild to think about, but matter itself is not solid. It is entirely dependent on its parts. Okay, let's jump into section 3, the true nature of emptiness. This is the metaphysical core. So, how does all this breaking down of reality translate into the core concept of sunyata or emptiness? Honestly, this is probably the most misunderstood part of the whole philosophy. Usually, Buddhist thought lists 18 different forms of emptiness to cover every single metaphysical angle. But Nagarjuna, he practically distills all of that down to this single number, 7. He does this to help practitioners actually use these concepts in real life. It's all about taking this massive, intimidating philosophical theory and turning it into a highly usable cognitive tool to untangle our everyday suffering. We can actually use these categories to step down, layer by layer, into deeper levels of reality. First, we start by recognizing the emptiness of nature. Meaning, just like that palace we talked about, things totally lack independent existence. Then, we move to the emptiness of all dharmas, realizing that literally every single physical and mental phenomenon follows this exact same rule. Next up is unobtainable emptiness. This is where your mind realizes there is absolutely nothing solid left to grab onto. But step 4 is where it gets genuinely revolutionary. The emptiness of emptiness. Yep, you actually have to discard the very concept of emptiness itself. You absolutely cannot treat emptiness as some new, holy object to worship or cling to. So the absolutely crucial point here is that taking emptiness as your new reality to attach to, that's a massive trap. True liberation actually means abandoning the concept entirely. The source text gives us this staggering visual for it, called the Great Emptiness. It asks you to imagine the end of a cosmic eon, where fire just burns away the mountains, the oceans, the earth itself. Everything is completely gone. But if you stand there and mentally cling to the vast, empty space that's left behind, guess what? You are still trapped. True wisdom is realizing that even the void itself is just another dependent concept. And that brings us to our final section. Section 4, Reality Beyond Time, the ultimate paradox. Okay, so if form is empty and emptiness is empty, when are we actually existing? Well, Nagarjuna argues that because time itself breaks down fundamentally, physical form cannot truly combine with the past, present, or future. It basically renders time a complete illusion. I mean, think about it for a second. The past is already completely extinguished, right? It has zero physical substance for reality to attach to. The future? It hasn't even been born yet. It is literally non-existent. And the present moment? Well, it's so incredibly fleeting that by the time you mentally label it now, it's already in the past. Therefore, reality just cannot exist in time the way we've always assumed it does. And this iconic realization right here really anchors this entire explainer. It proves that realizing emptiness doesn't mean destroying or escaping the physical world. Instead, it's about seeing its true, fluid nature. And guys, this is exactly how the Bodhisattva manages to stay in the world. They don't view the world as some solid prison they need to escape from, and they don't see emptiness as a distant, magical realm to run toward, because absolutely everything is constantly flowing, interdependent, and empty of a permanent self. Form and emptiness are literally the exact same thing. So I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought to take with you today. If the aggregates that make up your body are just temporary parts, and if time cannot actually be grasped, and if even the concept of emptiness itself has to be let go of, where does your mind dwell right now? What is the reality you are interacting with at this very second? It's a lot to chew on. Thank you so much for exploring the deep, deep wisdom of Nagarjuna with me today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.